Links join the channel. To the Star Wars nerds who are going to see this movie because it goes back 25,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, and that's kind of a more of a nerd attraction than the Daisy Ridley movie would be. You have to stop supporting this stuff. If you stop supporting all the crap that they're putting in front of you, eventually they'll stop and they'll make better movies. But you can't keep paying them for this kind of stuff. So James Mangold, in a bizarre fit of hubris, says he doesn't want his Star Wars movie to be handcuffed by George Lucas's lore. Think how do you say that with a straight face? Absolutely bizarre. Why even bother making Star Wars anymore? So this dickhole for brains, Mangold, which just feels like an Ellis Island misspelling of Goldman, probably by a dyslexic border agent, has Star Wars sitting in front of him, the universe created by Lucas in 77. And speaking of that, Disney has, or had, I mean, I guess they still have Indiana Jones, but they can't do anything with it. They have Star Wars, Pirates of the Caribbean. They have, what Disney has is just an insane amount of IPs where it's the meme of the guy moving the crank to print money. And what do? It's like they just sodomize each other with millennial think. Star Wars 77 was a phenomenal success, and all Disney had to do was just keep the motor running. Just continue along the original story vibe. It's like Nazi says what? But Disney are globalist parasites who suck the life out of and then infect everything they touch. Mangold is the guy who destroyed that last indie movie, Part 5, where for 3 out of 5 movies, they have these same antagonists. Nobody cares about World War II anymore. As a story universe, that theater is way over. You're just asking to lose money. It's been done and done and done. Nobody cares. And predictably, woke Black Lives Matter Indiana was a massive failure. How to go out on a high note. And they were they're gonna remake Little House on the Prairie. I think Netflix is doing it. And wait for it, it's for a modern audience. They're doing this for everything. And it's just AIDS-infested monkeypox. I would have thought it was ice skating uphill to have Star Wars lose money. But they managed to accomplish this with Solo, a decent movie, especially the CGI special effects look really solid. But people were so disappointed with the Disney trilogy and Daisy Ridley's trilogy that there was no interest in continuing this universe. And that movie was a bucket of ice water to Disney because the audience was telling them that they're not just going to be Coomer consumers and take everything you put on a plate before them. And then Disney goes on to make the Disney Plus shows, the Star Wars streaming shows. Mandalorian, I think, was the first one. And it was diverse. It was POCs and vagina everywhere. People hate diversity and feminism, and that should be obvious. I mean, I'm like vaguely thinking back to all 8 of those streaming shows, and it was short-haired, skinny, flat-chested women, and there was a scene where a mom was a soldier of some sort. It's like none of this makes sense, but it makes sense when you're globalist parasitical Disney. So this movie is going back 25,000 years, BBY, before the Battle of Yavin, which I think is the Star Wars The New Hope. I don't know what the Return of the Jedi, what that battle was called. It goes back to the start of the Jedi Order, and I predict it's going to be a casting call where they're in downtown Hollywood and they just throw a net out and they grab the first 100 people they can find, which means it's going to be a diverse cancer, which immediately kills storytelling. And it also dates the movie to the woke period of George Floyd Hollywood. Diversity doesn't work in movies like, oh yeah, this is Indiana Jones Part 5. Congratulations. Girl power. Diversity doesn't work in movies like Star Wars. It doesn't work in the real world. I mean, just look around you. I think this is becoming pretty fudging clear. Why would we want to see it in a movie universe? People want to have a little escapism, and that concept seems to be completely lost on Hollywood, which is fine because people are finally moving away from Hollywood. it takes you out of the story, and you know that you're seeing this woke Hollywood period from the 2020 BLM Soros riots to the collapse of movie making, say, I don't know, 2030, and people return to making organic tribal movies where people look like they belong together. And the thing is, with the rise of AI, especially with that NVIDIA news in China, you're going to be able to make movies. Probably pretty decent movies in the next 10 years. So distribution is going to be an issue. But I think we'll probably solve that. And like, there's no reason to have mainstream Hollywood movies if you can make legitimate AI movies that fall back on organic classic storytelling, which is what people want. So it's going to be interesting the next 10 years as people move away from this top-down hierarchy of them disseminating information but not a lot of feedback to this massively decentralized parallel storytelling network with these nodes putting out good stories, and they just increase and increase, and next thing you know, you don't have a mainstream Hollywood anymore. So Han, Leia, Luke, and Obi-Wan worked because it makes sense that they could form a family and fight for something. They look like they belong together. The 2015 Disney Star Wars was just commercial zone Bank of America fighting Google World. There's no passion in a diverse economic zone. Why would there be? It's like Zelensky fighting for Ukraine, or I mean, he's not fighting. He's sending people to fight and die for him. But who are the Ukrainians? He wants to import Africans and Middle Easterners after the war to replace the dead white soldiers. So really, what's the point? What are you fighting for? You're fighting for an economic zone. And people know this on a subconscious level. That's why globalist movies are taking massive L's, and they are. People have a spiritual connection to each other. Watch movies from the 50s and compare them to modern ones, it immediately becomes clear that you're just watching globalist propaganda. And what level of echo chamber hubris is required for this douche canoe to think he is going to improve on George Lucas? That's an idea we keep seeing. Lord of the Rings versus Cunt for Brains, Rings of Power, where these idiots think that they can take some of the best stories ever told, and in their cunty little minds, with their giant egos, they think that they can improve on perfection. It's like you're gonna cover Buckethead or something. It's bizarre. This sounds insane, but that's the ego of these twats in Hollywood. And objectively, you have proof that it doesn't work because you have Peter Jackson movies, the massively successful films from 2000, and then you have the woke, diverse Afro Hobbit Ring of Power on Amazon, which they sunk like $800 million into. And guess what? It's a massive bomb. What do I remember from Rings of Power? There's an Afro elf, and there's a evil blonde guy, human, in a bar, calling him like pointy ears or knife ears or something. Subtle, Amazon. That's really. Oh, he's blonde, so he's bad, right? And the Afro elf and the Afro hobbits we're a family together. Like, this is none of this makes sense. How are they? But they look visibly different. How are they? Like Swedish people, they all share some similarities. They don't look like sub-Saharan Africans. Why would they? They don't look like Han Chinese. That doesn't make sense. And people, oh no, it's istophobic. We can't. No, it's not. None of that's real. You can just speak the truth. It's time to like take all that political correctness and just put it aside and hopefully burn it and then nuke it from orbit. The thing is, those Peter Jackson movies where he's interviewed and he says, yeah, I guess there's three main directors. And he goes, yeah, we just made a pact. We wanted to follow Tolkien's story universe in intent as closely as we could. And then The Hobbit was an abomination. But, he was called in after the other guy had to step down. What a disappointment that was. And it was hugely successful. They didn't have to update Lord of the Rings for a modern audience. That was only 25 years ago. And you know what? It sold to everyone, people around the world, because Tolkien's books were translated into languages around the world. You don't have to update things. Oh no, we're going to sell it to the Japanese, so we're going to have to change things for the Japanese. We're going to have to make them Japanese. That doesn't make sense. That's not the original story. And like everything globalists tell you is just it's a lie on its face, and it's so obvious, but not enough people are pushing back on it. And now they're pushing back finally because they're just not paying for this kind of garbage. Anyway, people don't want movies updated for a modern audience. That's the stupidest thing we've ever heard. That's just Frankfurt School talk. It's how they just subvert and corrupt everything. That's anything that ties in with nationalism, tribalism, organic storytelling, and those things are all related. They have to subvert it and corrupt it and make it the Bolshevik found family concept. And they really can't create something new because everything to them is a vehicle to carry propaganda. So if they wrote a new story, it would openly be, oh, hey, look, a diverse group of POCs, and they're lesbians, and there's a couple of trans. And you're like, oh, this feels really topical. This feels like it was made current year. Doesn't that kind of date the movie? Doesn't it feel not organic? It's like, yeah, the left is not organic at all, because organic storytelling is nationalism, and they're terrified of that. So everything has to be propaganda. So they can't create news stories, or every once in a while they'll try, and it's a massive failure. So what they can do is just pay for IPs to the tune of Disney paying George Lucas $4 billion for some limited rights. And, to be fair, he was disappointed with the reception of the prequels. But, what a mistake it was to sell to the what do you call them? The white slavers at Disney for some reason. I don't know what he meant by that. Or the probably the great grandson of Tolkien's estate to license the rights to Rings of Power. So what they do is they just pay for these IPs, and then they use name recognition. And that's why, unfortunately, Star Wars is probably going to continue to do pretty well, because the name is such a huge name. And people kind of like Daisy Ridley. It's like it wasn't her fault. The movie was bad, but it's just bait and switch. Like you want pancakes? Yeah. So you get cardboard circles with syrup on them, and you ask, what the fudge is this? Like, oh, you must be a racist Nazi for wanting the original pancakes. Yes, and yes, give me the original, and also give me the Elon Musk salute. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.